It is the Situation Room. Coming into the final hour of the show this morning. It's the first day of February 2022, counting down to March, when the president will drive on the newly finished Nairobi expressway. Forget about anything that City Muga is about to say.
I will not repeat myself. I've already said it.
Good.
Come March, the expressway will not be completed. It will not be. It's a simple statement of fact. Yes.
End of March? Not beginning. End.
Eric, even the end of March, how many promises have we been made? You drive along this route and look at the expressway at every stage and tell me which one in your mind looks like it's near completion. Tell me which section. And look at the pace at which this... We were told in November that they were putting in the finishing touches. And I realized that I didn't understand that term.
Finishing touches?
Yes. The thing is, why don't they just tell the president the truth?
When do you estimate this highway will be complete?
No. You now ask me a technical question. You
When
know
do you
full well.
estimate?
And
Now
I'm not an engineer.
Now that you can estimate that it will not be completed in March, arguing with the engineers who've said so. So when do you want?
Eric, you know what you're doing here? You're asking me how to make a table just because I own one. No, sorry. I know it will not be completed in March because I'm on this road every single day. And I know I've been watching that. I mean, I pass by the progress. I look at it, I see it. So, March?
Okay.
No. And that trick question of when I think it'll be completed, forget. I'm not going to give it.
Nobody.
Nope.
Okay,
There I'm not
give
going.
us the day's proverb.
Kupotea njia ndio kuijua.
Kupotea njia ndio kuijua.
Yes, you lose your way. That's one way of finding it. Or being more knowledgeable of it. Yes. Because you've passed through it. You lose your way, you now know, I lost my way.
Failure is the best teacher.
Yes, and you'll know your way back.
There's Mwanaharakati Mukoya who has Kenyanized that proverb on social media. With the response, he says, in Kenya, ukipotea njia, shauri yako. Let's introduce our guest, the Honorable Jude Njomo, the MP for Kiambu Constituency. He joins us now in the Situation Room. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners. Thank you for having me.
We hoped to have you at 7 to 8. What happened?
Expressway, the one you're talking about.
You have vindicated City Muga.
Yeah? You see, the Swahili say, jogo ya shamba, haiwiki mjini. So I brought my ushamba to town, and I was tamed in a serious way, because I got to Mombasa Road and I got into a traffic jam that lasted for over 45 minutes. That really messed up my time. I'm not used to Mombasa Road in that hour of the morning, so even my time planning was completely out of tune. But as he has said, we can see a beautiful road coming up. Maybe that's a price we have to pay for the development that we are going to get. I got an opportunity yesterday when I was in one of the high-rise buildings in Nairobi to get a view of what is happening up there. And I think what is coming up generally, and without looking at technical details, looks like a beautiful project. It may have delayed, and what I can say is we have waited for it for a long time, waiting for it for an extra month. We always know that projects start and they are always given a provision of additional time, just in case they were interrupted by vagaries of weather or some delay in availability of material or the pandemic like we had, There are many reasons why projects are delayed. But this is not a white elephant project like others that we have seen. This is a project that is ongoing. This is a project that we are very, very hopeful that will be completed very, very soon. And it's a project that we hope will get rid of some of the serious traffic jams that we have experienced in this Nairobi city.
All those things, hope is the operative word.
Yeah.
Okay. Jude Njomo is the MP who pushed through Parliament, and he convinced his fellow legislators, and they agreed to put an interest rate cap. And it worked for a while. before it stopped working for a while. Now, Njomo, you have written to the Speaker of the National Assembly, and this is with regards to the treaties that we signed, the economic agreements that we signed with other countries, the trade pacts that we signed with other countries, so to speak. And there's what you're asking the Speaker of the National Assembly to do, that he okays the establishment of a select committee that then reviews all those that we've signed in the past. Am I correct?
Partly.
Give
First,
us
I want
the
to
full
introduce
story.
myself as Jude Njomo. I'm the servant of the people of Kiambu, and I serve them as their member of parliament, and I proudly do so. I'm also the chairman of Parliamentary caucus on economy and business, and this is a caucus that really focuses in a bipartisan manner on all matters that go through parliament that touches on our economy. I know there's the departmental committees that are mandated to do that. There is a departmental committee on finance. There is a budget and appropriations committee that has the same mandate. But they have their, I don't want to call them timelines. They have responsibilities. There are duties that they must do at all the time. Say the budget and appropriation committee, which I'm also a member. Every bill that goes through parliament must go through the budget committee, so that the committee determines whether it is a money bill or it's not a money bill. That is a lot of work, because there are so many proposals that go through the House, and each of them must be
pass through.
discussed by the budget committee. As they are doing this, there is the budget itself must be interrogated by the budget committee. And of course, you know, every year there are 2 or 3 supplementary budgets. Each supplementary budget goes through its own departmental committee. Then the chairman of that departmental committee comes and presents it to the budget committee, who now decides on the final fate of that particular budget. So the committee has a lot of work. So they may, though willing to investigate on these matters of economy and business, they may not have the appropriate time to do so. So this caucus is a caucus of people who have volunteered themselves to look at matters that affect our economy and our businesses. There's also a clear understanding that our economy will only improve if we improve the way our people do business. If we make sure that our business people, our SMEs, our traders are doing a profitable business. Because it's only out of the profit that they make that they can be able to pay taxes. And when they pay taxes, the government gets its revenue. So that is the thinking behind the caucus. Now, one of the matters that we have dealt with as a caucus is the UK-Kenya Economic Partnership Agreement that came through Parliament a couple of months ago. And as caucus, we went through the agreement. And there are several issues we had with it. And we felt that it was not properly deliberated before being tabled in the House. And we came together as members, and we tried to persuade the departmental committee to withdraw the tabling of the agreement, so that we can thrash out those thorny issues that we had identified. They were not able to do that, but we came together as a caucus, and we were able to convince the speaker that there are things that have not been done properly. There was no proper public participation in that bill, and we succeeded, and we were able to reverse what had been done. We were able to start all over again from the beginning. We did public participation. We deliberated on that agreement for about 2 weeks until we came to a consensus before tabling it again on the floor of the House.
What initially had happened?
There was a key document that was not attached to the agreement. Because, you know, in an economic partnership agreement, we are agreeing that UK are supposed to sell certain products to us.
Yeah.
So they must attach a schedule showing all those products that are supposed to be brought here, or that are supposed to come to Kenya
And enjoy duty-free
duty-free. there is also a list of goods that should be allowed to go to UK duty free. So those lists were missing. I know maybe they were tabled to the committee, but they were not tabled to the House. But we used that as a loophole to make sure that we sit down again and discuss this bill in details. We make sure that our business people, because we invited them, we invited
KEPSA,
we invited KEPSA, we invited
Association of Manufacturers,
Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we invited, what do you call?
the Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, this one headed by Gatia. And then they came with their members. We also invited exporters of horticulture, fruit exporters. We invited all people who do import and export, and people who think that they might be affected by that economic partnership agreement. For example, sugar processors. If we opened business of importing sugar to Kenya from UK, that will kill our sugar industry. And that was one of the things that we noted. Though they were not allowing sugar, but they were allowing beet sugar. You know, in Kenya we don't use beet sugar. Most of the European countries don't use cane sugar. They use beet sugar. So if we opened the floodgates for beet sugar to come into our country, then that would kill our
We've
cane.
introduced an alternative to cane sugar.
Yes, to our cane sugar, and that would kill all our cane farming in the Nyanza
belt.
and Western region, and even in the coast region. So we made sure that cane sugar was not part of the deal. So by the end of the day, we had come to an agreement that we have now, you know, an economic partnership agreement that we can say was, I mean, it was not going to
But
affect.
Mheshimiwa, so how had this agreement first been signed without public participation? How had the government of Kenya gone ahead to sign a deal with a UK government on economic partnership without involving the key stakeholders? And this is the various sectors of our economy, like you've said, and the various traders, and most importantly, the people's representatives.
Article 2 of our Constitution, Article 2, subsection 6, says that every international agreement that is that passes through, that is ratified by Parliament, becomes part of our law. So that is why we have written to the Speaker that we want to do some amendments to that law, because we feel that the way the Act, the Treaty Making and Ratification Act, is made, keeps out Parliament in any negotiations of international treaties, because it defines a treaty, the method of doing a treaty, that the executive or the minister will select a team that will negotiate with the other country, which will also select a team, and then they go to a negotiating table, they agree on terms and everything. After they have agreed, then the ministers sign an agreement. When they have signed, that is when now they bring it over to our country.
Parliament.
Before it comes to Parliament, the minister is supposed to present to the cabinet that same agreement, plus a memorandum explaining the importance of that agreement, how is it going to affect our economy, and how is it going to affect our counties. Now, it does not, this same act does not obligate the minister to table the same documents to Parliament, but to table the agreement to Parliament, so that Parliament can discuss and approve or reject the agreement. The UK partnership was even tougher because it did not allow for any amendments to be made. So we felt it was not well negotiated.
So it was brought to Parliament for rubber stamping.
For rubber stamping, that is what I'm saying. And that is why we feel as Parliament that we are being misused. And that is why we are proposing these amendments. So that whenever the executive feels that they want to negotiate a partnership agreement or economic agreement with another country, they must involve Parliament. And Parliament will do a select committee that will work hand in hand with the executive to negotiate with that other country, so that from the word go, the interest of mwananchi, which is will be represented now by the elected leader, will be taken into consideration.
Mheshimiwa, without that intervention at that point, because it was basically coming to Parliament for quasi-ratification, right? Just move on with this. So without the intervention at that point to say, hold on a minute, what does this thing actually say? What would have happened, or what would have been some of the things then that would have been essentially made law, quote unquote law, in the country considering this deal? What would have been some of the things that we would see? And then now with those interventions, what then would change with these amendments that are now being proposed?
Okay, what we are trying to eliminate is the notion that negotiations of economic treaties are like secret affairs.
Yes.
That they have to be done in secrecy until it is ready. Now that is when it's being presented. We want wananchi, we want Parliament to understand what are these things that are being negotiated. As we speak right now, Kenya is negotiating a treaty with the US. What are they negotiating? I would like them to negotiate Mutumba. Because I know US Mutumba is flooded in Kenya. So what are they going to do? So that person who is negotiating, does he know that Mutumba is affecting me as a resident of Kenya? Does it know that Mutumba is affecting that cotton farmer who used to farm cotton, but now he cannot do because Mutumba has flooded the market? You know? So we want that to be eliminated. We want to understand from the word go, what is this that is pushing us to negotiate with United States? We first understand, okay, we want to negotiate with them because we want to access their market, we want to do A, B, C, D, we want to understand it. Then after we have understood it, then we would like to know in details what are these items that are being negotiated. And that is why when we do the amendment to the treaty making and ratification law, it will include that. So that if Ministry of Trade wants to negotiate an economic partnership agreement with any country, then let wananchi be involved right from the word go. It may take a longer time than what they are used to, but I think it will have a better impact to our economy.
And essentially what we are saying is not just this one, but any other
Going
going forward, any other agreement on whatever grounds must be looked at before we go ahead and put ink to paper.
Yes.
Okay.
Because when we select a small team of 10 technocrats who will go and negotiate with UK, what surety do I have that they cannot be compromised and come with agreements that does not favor our country? And then when it comes on the table, we have no provision to make amendments.
Cannot amend it.
You know, we want to panel beat that agreement right from the word go, so that even if the basics are wrong, we correct them before we develop it to any other level. And I think we are not the first country to do that. We have looked at other jurisdictions that do. Okay, there are some countries who have the similar provisions like we have, but we have looked at jurisdictions that are allow fully participation of wananchi in the economic partnership agreement, and we want to match the best. You know, we want to match those jurisdictions where they involve their wananchi.
Tell me, Mheshimiwa, so this Treaty Making and Ratification Act, when was it enacted?
I think it was enacted in 2012. It's one of the acts.
It's one of those that were brought in by the Nyachai Commission.
Yes, that we are supposed to support or to give strength to the Constitution.
Right.
Because when they did the Constitution, they just said that international treaties that are ratified by Parliament becomes
part of Kenyan law.
Part of Kenyan law. So Parliament was supposed now to enact law to give force to that particular article of the Constitution.
So throughout that drafting process, when it was being drafted by the Nyachai Commission and it was brought to Parliament, it was discussed, are you telling me that this issue never cropped up, that Parliament is actually not being given any opportunity to participate in the negotiations, the trade negotiations, or that the whole principle of public participation is not being factored into this?
Public participation is a new thing it was a new thing then. Remember?
Yes.
In the
With the
10th
Constitution.
In the 10th Parliament, public participation was not mandatory. Two, and I'm commenting about things I don't know because I was not in Parliament in 2012.
No, I'm saying
I'm just imagining
at that point, you know, among the things that were very clear, especially with the Committee for the Implementation of the Constitution, that was the entire commission, when they were making these laws, they knew that they're breathing life into the Constitution. And they knew one of the principal tenets in lawmaking going forward shall be public participation. So every law shall factor in how the public participation shall take place. Now, we know that there's public participation now is it the second reading of any bill in Parliament when it goes into committee stage. But at this particular point, with this particular law, it does not provide for that because
No.
even
Let me correct
second
you.
reading,
Let me correct
you're
you
not
there.
going to open anything.
When the bill comes, when the agreement comes to Parliament, and before it is passed, it goes through a public participation. But what I'm saying,
But to no
it is
end.
not going to. This is not going to be an effective
Yes.
public participation
Because it cannot-
Because already the ministers of the respective countries
Have signed.
So why is public participating at this juncture?
Yep.
So that is why we want to change
That's
whole.
my point, actually.
That's why we want to change the whole setup,
Yeah.
so that we involve public right from the word go.
You know, my question,
Right from the negotiations.
Where I'm heading with this question is for you to speculate, having interrogated and interacted with various people who were in Parliament then, who are outside Parliament now. Why did this pass the way it did?
I don't want to answer that question because I was not there and I don't know the thinking of the members of Parliament who were there in 2012. But I think the most proactive thing to do is to change the mess that has been done, is to amend the law so that it suits today's way of thinking, so that the public participation that is going to be carried out is an active public participation that will effect changes in the agreement that is going to be done. Yes, I agree that law was not very well done, but we are going to amend it so that it becomes a modern law.
You don't want to say it,
Even
Mheshimiwa.
as
Let
you
me
do
say
that,
it. I want to say that was foul play.
But even as we do that, and even as he says
Deliberate.
that, I'm a bit worried if we have to say there must be a law that insists this to be done, whereby the expectation then of Parliament is that it would be so robust that anything that comes like that would be argued from top to bottom, regardless of whether there's a law or not.
You see, Parliament is a house of law, and in whatever we do, we follow the law. So if we feel
So
that,
if it comes already signed, there's nothing we can do about it.
well, we can reject it. We can reject it.
Yeah.
But what are the what is the price to pay
what
for
do we
us
lose?
or for us rejecting?
Rejecting.
Because this economic partnership agreement we are doing in the UK was necessitated by the fact that UK exited from
Brexit.
from
The
European Union.
European Union. Before then, we were using an economic partnership agreement that was signed between East African Community and the European,
And the European Union.
which allowed some of our products to enter their market tax-free.
Yes.
So if we would have refused to sign and rejected that treaty,
We lose on that
then
export.
all those commodities that would have been allowed into UK duty-free,
Stops.
we would have to start paying duty, including our avocado, including our flowers, including our tea, which is will be detrimental to our farmers.
Yeah.
But that should not close our eyes to the imports that we also get from UK. There are some products we can allow that can really mess with our economy. So there is actually need to sign such a treaty.
Mheshimiwa, would I be right in assuming that the other caucuses within Parliament, other than the one that you chair?
Yes, the other caucuses. The women caucus. This is Kewapa, that looks at matters feminine. There is an African caucus on against corruption, APNAC. There are religious caucuses also within Parliament. There is an Islamic
Parliament has religious caucuses.
Oh, yes. Not only religious caucus, there is church. I belong to the Catholic Church. We have our prayers every Wednesday morning. There's a prayer breakfast group that also conducts their meetings every Wednesday morning, and they do their prayers. Members of Parliament are very prayerful.
That I do not doubt. It's what they pray for that I would like to
I don't know why many people think that they cannot equate religion with members of parliament. Maybe because sometimes we have to make tough decisions.
No, I actually don't think so. I actually think that members of parliament need to be prayerful. There's a great need for them to be close to God or to seek God.
And it's not only in the country, because as our Catholic Church in Parliament, we have joined the international community of members of Parliament who also have their own churches in each Parliament. And every August we meet in Rome and we hold our prayers, we hold our meetings, and we map the way forward of how we are going to do legislation that are godly, legislations that are guided by biblical teachings, and legislations that do not go against the teachings of the church.
You know, when you speak, I actually believe, personally, I've listened to you, because for someone to have raised the issues that you and your caucus raised, it is something that was looking after the interest of the Mwananchi.
You're right.
And you're looking and saying, no, surely. Because all these items, whatever the case is, surely. But then something that I read this morning puzzled me and it confused me. Because there's a political parties amendment bill 2021 which was passed. Now, the key thing that was highlighted in the article I was reading was that the Auditor General has been prohibited now from actually auditing money that is given by the exchequer to political parties. And I was thinking, I thought prior to this, it was mandatory every year for the Auditor General to actually audit these very same monies that were given to political parties. That's why I asked about the caucuses, because I was thinking, surely even within Parliament itself, ought there not be, in my mind, should there not have been a caucus that says, no, folks, this auditing is absolutely necessary because it's public money being given to political parties. It is fair that the public knows and understands how that money was used. But when such a bill is passed, it's given the political parties the equivalent of a blank check. So nobody's going to ask. The money can be used in the way that people see fit and probably not in tandem with what it's intended to. So this puzzled me a bit.
I am not aware about obstruction of Auditor General from auditing the political parties' funds. I am not aware about that particular part. What I know concerning funds to the political parties, in the past, the parties had to attain a certain criteria for them to be qualified to access the political parties' money. But now, so long as you have an elected member, whether he's a member of the county assembly, or whether he's a member, or he's a governor, or he's a member of parliament or senator, your party qualifies to benefit from the political parties' fund. But the Auditor General's responsibility is to audit the usage of public fund. So if the public fund is being used in political parties, it should be audited.
You know, this article, and this is the document I'm quoting, what is now done is that the political parties take their books of accounts to the Auditor General, and that's what the Auditor General looks at.
You see, that is why we never use newspapers and cuttings, or because the writer may not have appreciated what is actually. He's now giving us his opinion, all her opinion.
Interpretation.
And that is why even in Parliament, we are never allowed to quote from newspapers. If you want to quote from reports, quote from the Hansard, quote from books of law, but you can never quote from a newspaper cutting.
Not your porojo.
Because we do not know who wrote that. We do not know where he got that information from. Let us get information firsthand from those papers because they are there in Parliament. But I can't remember us passing any law. In any case, you can never pass a law that is illegal. It is illegal to deny the Auditor General access to public funds which he's supposed to audit.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It
doesn't make
It just
sense.
it's like saying
That's why I said I was puzzled.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really genuinely puzzled. Now, we talked about it here in the morning, and I kept in mind that when you come, since you're a member of parliament, I was going to ask, because now that one, I can authenticate the source. Yes.
the source of that information.
You can be
No, you are the source.
Okay.
You now are the source, because you're a member of parliament.
I have in the past been a member of Public Accounts Committee,
Yes.
which works hand in hand with the Auditor General in looking at the way public funds have been spent. I have never come across a situation where the Auditor General has no access to public fund, including funds that do not even come to the like security. Yeah, security does not come to public accounts, but the Auditor General has access to those funds and he audits them.
Even defense.
Yes, it's only that he does not bring report to us. Yeah.
Do you feel, Mheshimiwa, I mean, from where you're coming from now, I mean, as I hear this, and I think this is great, because in principle, what we've been talking about here, looking at, I've always felt that here in Kenya, especially on the continent, when it comes to negotiating some of these things, that we often get the short end of the stick, not necessarily because of the patronizing attitude, which exists from other countries, but because of our almost inability or no desire to be part of or to even sit at the negotiating table. So for me, in principle, what you're saying here today makes sense. Do you think that it can graduate? So that, without a doubt, anybody who is coming to sit at the table will understand that these are not folks that you're just going to walk over, but they're going to be extremely involved in this process so that both can be benefactors of the Are we getting to the point whereby now we can see this kind of principle of negotiation graduating to the point whereby we're saying, these folks are not a walk in the park?
I like the way you have put it, because that is the thinking behind this amendment to this law. That when we are negotiating these laws, we are not negotiating them from an inferiority point of view. We are not negotiating the laws from an underdog point of view. Whether we are negotiating with larger economies or first world nations, we should negotiate as equals. We have been taken advantage of in the past. We have, and we know even in other countries where, like especially like in mining industry, where deals have been negotiated, where we are just losing money, and those countries are making abnormal profits, while the owners of the minerals are getting peanuts, and that is why we want to involve as many people as we can in these negotiations, so that our country can benefit most from the results of the agreements that will emanate from that. In fact, after the economic partnership agreement, we will look at what other treaties do we make in the country, and how can we make them better, so that we reap the benefits.
There's an issue that you raised there, where you raised a concern that in the current scenario, the cabinet minister who's in charge of the negotiations of trade pacts with other countries will select a small team of people to go and negotiate. And he said, how do we know that those people cannot be compromised? And he said, now, if we include the people's representatives into such a committee, then you're taking care of people's interests. Now, you're talking about Kenyan politicians, Kenyan parliamentarians. How do we know they're not going to even introduce compromising of this team that is of technocrats who've been there? How can we trust that by including members of parliament into the negotiating committee, we are then taking care of the interests of the public?
You see, elected members of parliament are representatives of the people.
Yes.
The executive team that do the negotiations are not elected. They are technocrats. Sometimes they fall short of the visions of the people. And
they're out of touch with reality.
They may be out of touch with reality. And sometimes they make decisions that we wonder, who made this decision and what did he have in mind when he made such a decision. So when we bring in people's representative, we are hoping that we have put more checks and balances. I don't know why people think of members of parliament like people who can easily be compromised. Look at a situation where we are negotiating about coffee, which is grown in my constituency. I would like the best for my coffee farmers.
Yes.
Yeah. So if I go to negotiate for them, and that is why we don't want a departmental committee to be working on this. We have talked about a select committee, so that if we are going to do a deal talking about fishing, export and import of fish, we are going to include members of parliament who come from those areas that are going to be affected by that particular business.
So it will be a select committee for a specific deal, and then
yes.
its time elapses,
Yes.
we go.
Yes.
Next time there's a deal and it talks about commodities that will include something else, like
Yes.
miraa farming, of course.
Then we
The
include those people who are affected.
Okay.
Who will be affected by
Which
the
one, you know why we are laughing so much? You're giving the impression that members of parliament aren't aware of what the public think of them. We don't think highly of members of our parliament.
But you are the same people who elect these members of parliament.
That is actually the point.
And then you go again and you re-elect them.
The people we elect are not the people who we eventually see a year or two after they've been in parliament. They morph into other creatures that we half the time we can't recognize. And that's why the attrition rate is as high as it is. Yes, there are people who are and if you look at the individuals who are re-elected, it is not difficult to understand or see why they've been re-elected. There are people who, what they say they will do, they have done. And if they haven't, they have spoken and said why they haven't. And they have a plan. The vast majority just talk. That's the impression the Mwananchi has. And then on things that the Mwananchi considers to be crucial, decisions are made and you wonder, how on earth don't they understand? Now, perhaps parliamentarians don't air the environment in which they work, the difficulties that they encounter in making the decision that they make, but the impression the general public has of parliamentarians, it is terrible. It's not good. Not good at all.
Parliament has an image crisis,
Yes.
and the next Parliament ought to basically look back into this one and improve on that. However, I think in principle, I agree with the idea of having people's representatives join this committee or at some stage, whether it's joining the committee and going to negotiate, or whether it's once the technical team has negotiated, come and sit with the people's representatives and have this matter opened up to the public, because there's a sense of accountability here. The people's representatives are supposed to be holding the executive to account, and they're also in turn being held accountable by the people who elected them. I like the idea of having them join this. Now, with all these conversations that
and even subjecting the agreement to public participation before the ministers sign.
Before it has been,
Yes.
ink has been put to paper. Now, when you're having these conversations as a caucus with, of course, the various duty bearers, what kind of feedback are you getting? I'm sure you've had this conversation with various personalities, technocrats who are working in government who participated in this before. What kind of feedback are you getting from them? Are they telling you, when we go to those countries and they hear that there's a member of parliament, will get pushback? Are you getting positive or negative?
When I talk with the people locally, everybody thinks that's the right direction to go in terms of improving the quality of agreements, in terms of negotiating better deals for our country, in also getting better deals for our people. People think that is the right direction to take. In any case, we are not reinventing the wheel. It has been done in other jurisdictions, and sometimes we negotiate with countries that have put those systems into play. So their people know what we are negotiating, while we do not know what they're negotiating. For example, we are getting information of the deal that is being negotiated between Kenya and America from America. Because America is doing their side of the deal transparently. from our side,
We have
we
no
have to
clue.
wait.
Oh, so you would assume.
Yeah.
You would assume
Yes.
that it was.
Well, at
rigged.
least there's some public participation
Yeah.
taking
So
place.
In-
we
in
will wait
reality,
until the
yes.
chakula is evad. That is when we will know what is this
Right.
we are cooking.
You don't know what went into the
Yes,
cooking process.
we want to be involved from the time of peeling the potatoes. We want cutting the onions. We want to be there.
and for it to be transparent.
Yes,
so that
to be done in
anybody
a
can
very
access it.
transparent way, so that if we are farmers and they are negotiating matters involving farmers, we will look for organizations that deal with farming so that they can give their input. If they are negotiating about fishing and fish export and import, we include all those who are involved in that particular field, so that our treaty will be enriched and is going to be beneficial to us.
I'm asking what kind of feedback you're getting from government offices, because these are the same people who went and signed a deal with the UK government, and in it they included a clause that says this cannot be amended.
Of course, they will not welcome us in on the table. That is why we have not consulted them, and we are not obliged to consult them. But when we are doing the law, we will involve them, because the first thing you do when you, for example, now I'm getting drafters from Parliament, who we shall sit down. And that is why I had to write to the speaker, so that he can give me drafters. Then the drafters will sit down with my caucus, so that they can internalize what we want to do. These are the people who are going to tell us, okay, we have to amend. For example, in our mind, we want to amend Treaty Making and Ratification Act. We want to amend the standing orders.
Standing orders of
But they will
Parliament.
also advise us, because they are professionals, that if you amend this, then you have to amend these others.
Yeah.
So that is work in progress. Now we will, once we have drafted the bill, now we will send it after maybe the first reading. We will send it to the mother or to the relevant ministry. That is now when they can come back with their feedback and their disagreement or agreements also, or on their own proposed amendments. But they are not cast on stone. They will come. They will be considered by the Committee of Parliament, and they'll see whether they can include them in the bill.
Do you have a final question? I know.
Look, I like the robustness of this with which you're speaking about this. My desire, I mean, even as we talk about the seriousness with which Kenyans look at Parliament, not just presently, but how it has been historically, I think this is one thing that at least can catapult a new image of Parliament in the minds of Kenyans, to say that we're really concerned about this, not for any other motive, but to make sure that the entire country is entering into something that's going to be beneficial across board. Because again, it has been that, parliamentarians are there for their own selfish interests. And, when something doesn't suit you, that's when you see something being argued about. But I think that this is a beautiful opportunity to have some of those things, changed around internally and externally, to say that, all right, so here is Parliament that's, number one, worth its salt in terms of numbers, but then at the same time, in terms of what can be negotiated in terms of the legislature. Who can get the guarantee, or how will the guarantee then be made to people that, look, here is one, and that there is more in line, there are more in succession, that we say, from this, we're going to the next?
That's a statement, not a question.
What's the guarantee?
What's the guarantee?
A guarantee about having this law passed.
And more to come.
You see, you have seen the sense in this law, as we have explained, and the need for this law. I don't see any member of Parliament waking up to say this should not be done. Maybe the only argument they can say is going to make treaty making a lengthy process. Because once you propose, then you have to inform Parliament for Parliament to do a select committee. It is a very necessary delay. Yeah, we can delay for 2 or 3 months just to ensure that the product that we are going to get at the end of the day is something that is going to benefit not only our country, but also its people. So I am so sure, even from the members that I have discussed with about this, that this is going to be a success. The only trouble we have is the timelines. Are we going to be able to finish this
finish
bill
this within the life of this
within the
parliament.
life of this parliament.
Oh.
That is the biggest challenge.
We
we
can
have.
always wish you all
But
the
I'm
best.
very, very, very positive that our electorate will bring us to parliament back next term, so that we can finish some of these unfinished
So this
jobs.
is among the things that you go and say, I started something, vote me back.
I
So
have started many bills that have not gone through. I'm doing an amendment to traffic law, so that we can recognize now things like expressway, which are not in our legal books, or the Thika Road, super highway. You find that there are some heavy lorries driving on the right hand side, and you cannot overtake. We have to put those things in law. I'm doing amendment of NITA bill, which is going to allow us
You'll
to
come back and tell us about all these bills. Asante sana for joining us today. Jude Njomo is the MP for Kiambu Constituency. We've been talking about the push to have the Treaty Making and Ratification Acts amended, and also formation of select committees to be looking at whatever treaty we get into.